And away we go. It is the BCJ Podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com. Let's as always welcome our sponsor, the Holy Grail, down at the Banks. Thanks to everyone the past couple weeks that has joined us down at the Banks. We had a great time at both watch parties. We went 1-1. We weren't perfect, but I had some delicious pizza. We had some wings and a couple beverages and enjoyed watching some Bearcats basketball. So when you're down at the Banks, make sure you stop by and visit our good friends at the Holy Grail. Remember, for every Cincy Light that you drink at the Holy Grail, they will donate an additional 50 cents to Cincy Reigns. All right. Let's get to it, Dave. How are you?
Good. Let's see. Had a good day. Got a good workout in today. Wasn't feeling it, but I fought through with the enthusiasm and toughness not known by many human beings. The intestinal fortitude. I think Nico would be proud.
I maybe you could get your own group and just declare yourself the winner. Like you take a shot and you're like, Group 9 is the winner this week, and it's just you.
Yes, I feel like a winner.
Oh man. So how was your night last night, Dave?
It's fine. Played basketball with Will. Watched most of the game.
I mean, sometimes it gets tough. Will goes on a run. You gotta buckle down. You gotta,
Well, I called you and told you because it was let's hilarious.
I want to hear it.
But
it's funny.
So second half, we're playing and watching, and Houston hit Sharp hit 2 threes in a row to put the lead at 17. Yeah. They called timeout, and all the players are crossing past, and there's a lot of people on the court. And Will goes, "Is the game over?" And Rachel goes, "No." And he goes, "Seems like it."
The observation of children, Dave.
I was like, they are. And we both just laughed. I was like, "Yeah, you kind of nailed it, buddy."
Yeah. It's no, but yes.
Yeah.
No, but yes. Cincinnati falls at Houston, 67-59. I know a lot of people are worked up about this, that, and the other. For me, I didn't see any. They weren't going to win that game. So I didn't have any anticipation that they were going to win that game. Then they get down 14-2. They miss, I think, 5 point-blank layups. They miss 3 wide-open jumpers. Maybe my expectations were low because they were. And I don't know. I think the only thing I really wanted to see was do they have any fight in them? Or are they going to get beat by 30? Because they didn't have any fight in them in Oklahoma State or TCU, really.
Right. Yeah.
Not fight. Dig in and fight.
Yeah. Being mad at the result last night, I think you're just that's a cumulative thing at this point in the season. I be mad at the result. That's fine. I mean, I think everybody should be mad anytime that their favorite team loses a game. But don't be mad at the result in the sense of we should have won. I mean,
right.
I don't think so. There are elements that are frustrating the hell out of me, but the actual win and loss portion of that game specifically, I mean, they're really good. Obviously, the number 1 team in the country right now. UC has their warts that we have talked about ad nauseum. So that part of it is not, to me, to be unexpected. I think we're starting to see this dichotomy though of, and I'm pretty much right in the middle, which doesn't make for great,
podcasting.
No, it does, but like I'm not a fly off the handle. I'm not a fly off the handle person. Like we've started to develop this like either you are like what Wes out, which I think is ridiculous, or I've noticed we've kind of started to coalesce this group of like it's not as bad as it seems, and the trajectory is there, and I'm not quite there either. Because, well, yes, I'm not taking the Houston result, the two Houston results really into consideration. Like, there does come a point, though, for me where, like, you're that close so often. Like, what is the reason that we're not getting over the hump? And not this game specifically, even though they made it much closer than, like I just said, they were down 17 in the second half and didn't quit. And there is value to that. But at the same point, like I kind of feel like we're starting to become like, at least in the fan base to some extent, like the Tyler Hansborough of this season, where it's like when he plays really hard is the first thing you say about someone, that usually means like they're actually not that good at the sport. And that's him from like an NBA standpoint. He was an excellent college basketball player. But it's like I'm kind of just I've had enough of the like, hey, they play real hard. And they could have lost by 30 and they didn't. Like, okay, that's fine. And I get it. But, like, it's hard for me to have that backed up with the didn't really give a shit on defense against Oklahoma State. And then I actually didn't see any of the TCU game, which sounds like I didn't miss much. But, you know, I think I'm in the middle of that. Like, do I want to get West fired? No, that doesn't accomplish anything at this point. But I'm also not like I'm having a harder time seeing these points that I think some are trying to make of like how this is not as bad as it seems, or the overall trajectory of the program is still going in a very good direction. I mean, yeah, I think you could say it's going in a good direction, but I think some are a little bit further along in that regard than I am, because let's be honest, I mean, they're 5-10 in the conference, and that's with a lot of very, very close losses, and that's incredibly disappointing to me.
And that's fair. The point I think that, well, here's the other problem that we have, Dave, is that when one group takes a wild stance this way,
it forces another group to try to
erases the middle ground. It erases the middle ground, because I think everybody that is rational is kind of maybe not all the way where you're at, but pretty close to where you're at. Like, you know, the roster is solid. There's really nobody on the roster that you look at that plays and you're like, that guy just doesn't belong in the Big 12. Like, get that guy. Like, he has no business playing in this league.
Right.
Which in this league, it gives you some positive energy in terms of the roster construction. They are putting Big 12 quality players on the roster. The more that we watch, Dave, the more that I think there was probably an overcorrection one way when it comes to the idea of we are going into our first year in the Big 12. We need to be big. We need to be tough. We need to be physical. We need a bunch of 7-footers and guys that can protect the rim and rebound. Right. And those things are necessary. But what I would say I've learned from this league is that it's not like the old Big East in a lot of ways.
It's certainly not. And I'll make a point to that. But I had that same thought as you did. I mean, it's very easy to go hindsight. But watching these games, and especially the way the offense has been, you probably would look back and go, we probably didn't need as many bigs, and we would have been more beneficial with another wing scorer or two-guard scorer, whatever you want to call it. Because last night they flashed a graphic. UC's was averaging 74.9 points per game. And I don't think that is just in Big 12 play. I think that's probably for the season.
Right.
And they're 9th in the league in scoring.
Right. This is And I wonder how much of it is born from there are a lot of great defensive teams in this league. And that has created a correction that you better get some scorers. Like you better get some guys that can score against good defense, because if you've got guys that are good but not great on offense, as you go through this 18 and next year 20 game grind, they are going to figure you out in this league. And they are going to take away what you're good at, and they are going to grind your offense to a halt if you don't have 1, 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 in this league, guys that can individually get a bucket.
I mean, just think about, you've watched way more of the league in general than I have, but
I love it. I can't get enough of it.
There are a lot of good to really good defensive teams in this league.
Great.
How many games do you remember that were 56-55 or 63-59?
Not a ton. I mean, a lot of Houston games. Did you know?
But no, they held the team to that, but they scored in the 70s.
Right. Actually, I think 67. I think the lowest they scored was that 65 when they got blown out at Kansas. The next two lowest totals are 67
against us,
both Cincinnati.
Right. So yeah,
Cincinnati scored 62 and 59.
And that, I think, the team is just the turnover thing. To me, as just a basketball fan, is infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a total program. We're talking decimals. So, like, when I say they're 243rd in the country in turnovers, I mean, there's a lot of teams like tied with them for whatever that spot. I mean, you're talking fractionals and stuff. So that's not as, but just watching the games. I mean, you don't have to tell me the stats. Watching the games. I mean, they have 49 turnovers in their last 3 games. That part to me is just like, what is going on? You know, people can say, well, who else are they going to put in? Okay, well then that's a recruiting problem to me.
So I've been thinking about exactly this a lot since last night. And what seems like the most logical answer to me is West took a calculated risk. And that calculated risk is a long-term risk. And that was, we're going to bring in 2 point guards as we go into a league that we know nothing about, that we know is the best league in the country. We're going to bring in 2 point guards that we know are talented, but they've never dribbled a basketball in a Division I game. And we are going to put this on the shoulders of these 2 guys that are learning, running an offense in this league. And I think they were counting on CJ to be there as the 2 guard that was really heady. Like, maybe he's not going to have he's not going to be dribbling a lot, but you're going to be running offense through him. You're going to be running offense through CMOS. Like that, I think, was initially the plan, that you would have one of those point guards on the floor and either 1 or 2 of CMOS and CJ, usually 2, ideally, and that would make your offense kind of mask having the 2 young point guards, especially after Micah left.
You know what?
But that's not a winning.
And they've had
they're not
games.
bad.
That's my point. Is everybody's had their games where they've had 3, 4, 5 turnovers. I'm less concerned about them as I am the 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that actually have experience and keep turning the damn ball over. Like,
that's the other thing that's been a massive problem.
I'm not okay with it, but like, that wasn't understood coming in. Like, 2 guys, a freshman and a JUCO that have never played on this level, they're going to have games where they turn the ball over. It's the other guys. It's CMOS averaging 3 a game. It's Vic during that stretch where it was like, as soon as he touched the ball, it just went to the other team. Like, those are the situations that frustrate me more than the point guards, because they're not veterans. They're not developed players yet.
Yeah, but here's what I would say to that, though, Dave. when you don't have that guy, then everybody kind of gets put in a like. And what I mean by that guy is, I mean the guy with the ball in his hands.
Right. Oh yeah.
I mean, like Jamal Shedd has the ball in his hands a majority of the time for Houston. The kid at Kansas, like his name escapes me right. Their point guard,
DeJuan Harris.
DeJuan Harris, yeah. Those teams are smoother offensively because they know, like, this guy has the ball.
Definitely.
So when you don't have that, and what's driven me mad, Dave, is that it's never one night it's the point guards where they combine for 7 turnovers, and then the next night it's Dan and Seamas and they have 8, and then the next guy the next night it's Aziz and Jamil have 6, and so there's never any one thing, and this is part of like what has been going through my brain today. There's never really any that one predetermined thing that like, okay, we know if we fix this, we fix our turnover problem.
Well, that's the thing. Is like when you evaluate this team, and that's what's been the frustrating part to me, is that you can't really, like, I'm not going to compare the teams because it's not fair, but like Hugs and Mick, you knew no matter what, night in, night out, 95% of the time we're going to play defense and we're going to rebound.
Yeah.
This
team has done that.
But it hasn't though. I mean, Oklahoma State it didn't. I mean, there's been plenty of times that they have let that element slip. It's just something
in conference play, defense. Oklahoma State was bad. Who else were they bad defensively against in conference?
Well, I would imagine Saturday TCU.
So that wasn't defense. That was a layup line in transition. 25. That game was still in the 60s, wasn't it?
I don't know. But okay, I mean maybe I'm misjudging a little bit there, but
their defense did over the past like 3 weeks. They had a couple games where the defense was not what it had been. But through the first, I would say through the first 10 games of the league, they were the second or third ranked team in the league in defensive efficiency. Defensive and rebounding have been, defensive rebounding
they've been there. They're better
by and large been there.
Right. But then it's like the perfect example is last night. And this is not a like win or lose thing, but it's like you played pretty great defense and rebounded your ass off.
Yeah.
And then you turned the ball over and couldn't shoot.
Right.
And it's like, so they're just in this and that they're in this stage where they're not able, and is that a talent thing? Is that a coaching thing? Is that a both thing? I don't know. I'm not really here to analyze it too deeply, but
I will. I think it's a roster construction thing, and it was a bit of a miscalculation on what it takes to win in this league. Like, I think it was a guess as to we want to be the bigger physical, like come in, rebound, defend, but that's not enough in this league. That's not enough. And they obviously, the CJ thing, I mean, look, I've talked to a bunch of people around the country. They all told me the same thing. We would have taken him. In this day and age, the way that shot making is valued in this sport, everybody would have taken him. Kentucky took him coming out of Iowa with injury concerns. So it's hard to really, it's easy in hindsight to say you shouldn't have taken CJ.
No, see, I'm not going to say that. I don't have a problem taking CJ. My problem is knowing all of those things, we probably should have taken
another one,
a backup plan.
Yeah.
To combat exactly what has happened this year.
Understand that gets a little tougher when you're like, okay, we also want you to come in and you're going to have CJ Frederick, Dan Skillings, John Newman, Seamas Lukosius.
So what changes next year? Because that same it's tougher man thing is going to still exist.
No, if you can't sell coming in here and playing the 2, you shouldn't be assistant coaching.
But I think they need a lot more than just a guy to come in and play the two.
There's not going to be, I don't think there's going to be a shit ton of spots. And if there are, then you're just going to be backfilling the spots that you thought you would have to begin with.
I mean,
I think 2 to 3 spots is what ends up opening up. I think
okay.
you
Well,
need
then that's what I would hope as well, because like, let's be real. If that doesn't happen, how is this team from an offensive standpoint, outside of just guys making natural gains, but so will all the teams that they play? They're not going to be the only team that has guys that get better. How are they going to get better offensively is my question. Like, I think you have to be in the portal with, whether it's shooter, scorer, heavy offensive mentality additions.
You need a combo / scoring guard that's going to reliably, efficiently get you 14, 15 points a night. Like, I think that is a must-have on this roster.
Yeah, and and then a very legitimate shooter.
A wing shooter. Yeah.
Someone that can take advantage, because like we talked about it, the offense for the most part, the structure, the flow has not been the problem.
No.
We need someone that can just stand there and hit open shots, frankly. Because they've had plenty of them, and no one really, with any consistency,
there's nobody that can do it, right?
Has been able to make them. So I'm not talking about, like some white guy whose last name ends in a vowel that you just stick in the corner and he does nothing else but like sit there and wait till the ball.
They could use one of those.
They sure as shit could. But in this league, we've also noticed too that even though the offense is what we're talking about, like, you can't be a zero on the defensive end.
Oh, that's the other thing about this league that has really stood out to me, Dave. If you put a guy, like, there is no hiding anybody in this league. You might be able to do it for a game or two or in a matchup or two. Like, okay,
depending on the opponent. Yeah.
Right. Like, that's their weak link. So we can maybe hide him there. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to find you. They're going to throw the ball to the guy that you're guarding. They're going to set a ball screen, or they're going to run an action. And that guy is going to put the guy you're trying to hide on skates. It's just the nature of the best basketball conference in the country.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm not advocating for West to have any hard conversations, but we're all adults here. Like, you're going into year 4. You better figure some stuff out.
Here's the thing, Dave, and we talk about this with players. Now the players understand what this league is about. Now the players understand better, what it takes to grind through this thing. The people that should take the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2 better be the coaching staff.
Right.
Because you don't know. Like, you can call and you can talk to everybody. You can think like you've got a grasp on what it's going to take to win in this league. Until you go through it, you don't. But now that you have, you better be able to take the lessons you've learned and, take that vision of what you learned and make your roster look more like that. What you think you need to win. Because it's evident that they have enough to be right there with anybody in this league. But they don't have enough to get over the hump. And you have to recruit to get over the hump. Like, now you know. And knowing is half the battle, Dave.
It is. I agree.
Little G.I. Joe there for you.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just, I mean, I like a lot of the pieces, but, and I think we just talked about it, like, hindsight's 2020. Probably doesn't fit exactly how you would have, especially with CJ going down for as much of time as he has. But it has, if this didn't, and I don't even think that there's a fear of an overcorrection. Like, You can't
get some bucket getters.
In my mind, yeah, you can't have enough offense, man. If you want to get into a shootout with someone and it's 85-82, I don't really care.
Guess what? Baylor's won with an elite offense and pretty crappy defense. Like, they've still managed to hang around the top of the league. Kansas, kind of similar. Yeah, Houston and Iowa State, their defense is at the top of the league, but they don't stink on offense.
No. Because they have guys like LJ Cryer, like Jamal Shed, that whenever, like, what was the stat? I don't know if it was the first half or whatever. Shed had like 20 points, and the rest of the team had Cryer had like 20 points. The rest of the team had made 3 baskets or something.
Yeah.
So you can survive for time periods, for segments when everybody else is having a hard go, when you have a guy. So
I mean, go look at what Houston brought in. They brought in Cryer. They brought in Dunn. They brought in.
Who really doesn't even play.
Right, but that's my point. Is they like to get to what you're saying.
Right.
Kelvin Sampson said, "Give me as many scorers as I can get, and I'll figure out like which one is my guy." And Dunn doesn't do anything really for that team. He's averaging 6-7 points a game.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know if it's that much. I didn't notice him hard at all last night.
He played 11 minutes. He was -9. He didn't score.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a full rotational, Yeah. He's a rotation guy at this point.
He's playing 2 rotations, 1 in each half, essentially.
Averages 6.3.
Yeah, I thought it was right around 6. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, we just
might have been a lot closer to 7 before he scored 0 yesterday.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're at this point in the season. There's some brain drain, and there's some residuals of just not being able to score. And because I mean, like, we're seeing John, he hasn't scored over 7 points in 5 games.
Right.
And he had a really nice streak of about 5 or 6 games prior to that, where he was definitely more of a piece offensively, and it's not there now. And
well, through the first third of the season, he was averaging 14 points a game.
Yeah.
Like, he was, John goes from that to 5, and Vic goes from your leading scorer, 14, 15 points to nothing.
Essentially nothing.
That's really hard to overcome.
Right.
Kudos to Vic for working his way out of it a little bit last night. Huge props there.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've got their, the Big 12 helps certainly to sell that, but like, you're looking for scores. Everybody is looking for scores. Sure, you better be in a decent position. You're okay, like, you're not going to go, like I said, like, if I see Alabama on a kid, like, the word is it's coming down to UC and Alabama, like, run as far away as you can. You're not getting that kid.
Right.
Because whatever you pay, whatever you say you're going to pay them, Bama's going to be like, oh, okay, we'll pay you more.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pay you more. Okay, we'll pay you more. Like, it doesn't matter how many times you up the ante, they're not going to be outbid, so to speak.
No.
But in this league, with a clear opening for we need somebody to come in here and score, you should be able to get a dude. Like, it might not be a top 5 shooting guard transfer in the market, but it doesn't have to be.
I mean, Tennessee got a guy that nobody had ever freaking heard of, who is probably going to win SEC Player of the Year. So,
right.
It's, just if you can get buckets, you can get buckets. Like,
right. Find the guy, go get him, add him to this roster. And I'm, if you can go find a 6'6" shooter, I don't care how little he moves. Like, just have him stand there and bang in open threes. Offensively, that's okay, as long as he can defend a little and rebound. But that's the thing that's been glaring to me, Dave, is offensively, this league is I expected it to be good. It's better than I expected.
Yeah. I mean,
Is that a fair way to put it from what you've seen?
For sure. Because, I mean, coming into the season, Kansas is always good offensively. But
Baylor's usually good offensively.
The mid-range teams that I didn't know as much about, like a TCU, like a Texas Tech, they're all consistently up in the 70s and 80s.
I mean, Kansas State is maybe the one disappointment offensively in the league, and
they
lost to flat out
all their players.
Yeah. Well, but even more than that, they lost 2 dudes that were elite at here's the ball, put it in there.
Yeah.
What are you going to run? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I got a little guy and I got a wing, and they're going to put buckets on your head constantly. So,
yeah.
But if you look, Tyler Perry he's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Saturday night. He was bad initially. And he has gotten significantly better of late.
Yeah, you obviously hope that all the players that you want to return.
Sure.
But I mean, and if that happens, I like a lot of those pieces. But the Tylers, I think, can be really good players, but what are you realistically expecting to get out of them next year? Just look at Jizzle. I think he's had a pretty damn good freshman year in this conference, and you're still not really sure what you're going to get. So, what are you really going to expect to get from those freshmen? So, where is that pop coming from? So you've got to hit that uber hard and find, and it puts you in a weird spot because, again, like you said, there's only one ball. These guys are in the portal. They're going to be the guy that UC needs, but UC just needs 2 or 3 of them. So how does that work? Who can you get in that when that's the situation?
But here's the thing. I think they need one of them in terms of we need you to come in, take a bunch of shots, have the ball in your hands all the time.
I just mean three offensively focused players because whether it's a shooter, a pure scorer, another wing ball handler, they got to find offensive guys who are going to shoot the ball at a fairly good clip, can score, and cut down on the turnovers.
But you also have to make sure you're losing John Newman, who's an elite defender.
Right.
You have to make sure that you don't fall off a cliff defensively, as you said before. So there is some, can we take this guy that his tape just says not a willing defender? He might be the answer offensively, but he's eating a bunch of minutes that are coming, not directly from John Newman's spot. Dan and Seamoss, if they're, assuming both are here, assuming all of, like you said, the guys that they want return, they'll take the John Newman minutes. The guy that comes in to play the guard spot, will eat into that. The same people, Dan and Seamoss will be on the floor. This person is going to be taking generally the minutes that John Newman played.
Right.
So you can't have, now I think Dan has improved drastically on defense. I think Seamoss, who I thought was a liability for half of league play, has started to not be, hey, throw it to me because I've got this guy guarding me that can't guard me.
Right.
I think he's gotten better.
We know what Day could be defensively. We know what Aziz can be defensively. I think.
Yeah.
Dan can get there.
Sure.
I think Josh has gotten significantly better on the defensive end.
But he has to find more offense.
Sure. But if you are able to, here's my point though, if you're able to bring in those type of guys, he can be your more Rashad Bishop-y,
Yeah.
Now, he's not going to be it in 25,
Easy,
30
Tiger.
Minutes.
Easy, Tiger. Easy.
I'm just ish. I said ish.
Don't bring that name up around here unless you're going to come strong.
He can be that type of guy for you, but he's not going to be able to play 25 minutes if he can't give you anything on the offensive end.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how great you are defensively if we're playing 4-on-5 offensively.
When were they better? When were they at their best this year? When John Newman was not only being an elite defender, but was also scoring 13 points a game.
Right.
This team is significantly different. That's why part of the reason, a big reason they've lost 5 of the last 6 is because they played Houston twice and Iowa State. But I digress. It's going to be very interesting to me to see the self-correction, to bring it back together, to see the self-correction in roster building after a year in the league. If they go defense or they go big again, then I don't think you learned what you needed to learn going through this league. Because when I go through this league, I see bucket getters in a lot of places, in a lot of different spaces on the floor, that even if you're great defensively, make it tough on you.
I mean, you're just not gonna, and I'm not even sure if it's necessarily like a change in college basketball as a whole, but like you're just not gonna consistently out defense teams to wins anymore.
Yeah.
Like you're not, the Virginia is a toast program now.
Yeah.
They did that what, 6, 7, 8 years ago? 55,
it wasn't even that long ago.
55, 52, stuff like that. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it that. And I'm not saying that UC is trying to do it that way, but
no, I don't think they are.
You've just got to have way more options on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Dave, I think they wanted, they added Jamil, who was much more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy. They added CJ, they added CMOS. Like, I think there was some depth, in the additions. That they added Jizzle, who's offense, clearly offense over defense. 4 of your 7 additions last off season were offensive guys, but I think you learned, like, they weren't as dynamic offensively as what it takes.
No.
To be a all-conference level guy in this league. Like, I know Andrew talked about like an NBA type guy or like a Landers type guy. Like, a Landers type. Like, look, Andrew, if you can promise me that they're going to get a 6'7" wing that's going to shoot 44% from 3 on heavy volume, sign me up, sir. Sign me up. Think how different all of this would look.
Sign all the other programs in the country.
Right. Right.
There's not one program in the country that would turn that player down.
Right. So, well, a lot of people turn Landers down.
I mean, but you know what I mean.
In hindsight, right? I know, but that's part of it too. Why it's such a crapshoot. Like it's. I know it's easy to sit here and say this is what they need to go do, but what you hope happens is you do it, and the guy performs better than you even expected him to be. There's a whole lot of places that went out and paid a lot of money and brought in the guy, that was going to come in and score 17 points a game. And now they're on the bench and haven't done anything, and you're out a bunch of money, and your team stinks. So it's easy for us to sit here and talk about it, but to close the book on like what I was saying with Day and Jizzle, the gamble is that they are the answer long term. That Jizzle's going to be your point guard for 3-4 years. That you're going to get a good year out of Day in year 1 and a great year out of Day in year 2. That's like, that's the why you roll the dice on that. But unfortunately, the reality is while they have been good in their first year playing in a high major basketball league, they have often not been better than the guy across from them. And that really is what it comes down to.
Most of the time, the guys across from them are in their third, fourth year. And
exactly.
Yeah. So
that's why it was a gamble. And it's a gamble that it looks like in year one didn't fully pay off. Did it pay off some? Yeah, you got two good players. But did it pay off in getting you to the middle of the conference and in position for an NCAA tournament berth? No, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So I think it's okay to talk about it. I think it's okay to say West took a gamble on that. It was a long-term gamble, and we don't yet know what the end payout is. What we know is they both had a pretty solid year one in terms of what was being asked of them. But in this league, it's not good enough night in, night out.
There's no, easing your way in.
No.
And then, next year, you hope that the pains of this year pay off. And then, and then next year, and next year there's very little of the, here's the thing, like next year I can't really do like the, oh my God, they've played 7 ranked teams in a row or whatever, because that's going to be every year probably.
Right.
But like
in year one, it's overwhelming. In year two, you better be ready for it.
Absolutely. Because you just went from playing 1 ranked team for 2 months last year to playing 7 ranked teams in 7 games. So yes, it is overwhelming in year one. But next year, it's not new. And that's every team every year. So
sure,
you just got to deal with it. You can't. No, I don't want to hear anybody, because Wes hasn't said it, but like I don't want to hear any fans be like, "Oh my God, they played all these hard teams." What do you think is going to happen next year?
And the year after,
like they're not going to play all these hard teams next year.
The league ain't getting weaker next year; it's getting stronger. Arizona's coming down those tracks. So yeah, I don't know. I expected last night. It was what it was. I'm not. It's not a moral victory. It is not anything that for me other than to say I would have had a lot of not nasty, but I would have been a lot more negative if they didn't show the fight that they showed last night, because that was what was bothersome about especially Oklahoma State. And then they got to a point against TCU where they just kind of like they put it in neutral, and that's not something they've done at all this year. So it's not something that I think is, they haven't lost a game by 40, a game by 25, and a game by 20 in league play. So I don't think, I don't think it's at that level, but now go play Kansas State as hard as you played Houston, right? Go at Oklahoma and play as hard as you did against Houston. Because if you do that, you're going to be in a good position to win. And if you play like you did against Oklahoma State and for portions of that TCU game, you're going to be 5-13, Dave. And the conversation we have this offseason, if you're 7-11 as opposed to 5-13 is vastly different. Vastly different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bearcat Mick, I've been talking about that a lot. Not just 18 conference games next year, 20. 20 conference games next year. Yeesh. If anybody's looking for the non-conference schedule to get tougher, it ain't happening.
No.
You might see, hopefully you'll see a better MTE, the Xavier game, and then like a home and home. And maybe a neutral site if you really got it cooking. But with 20 conference games coming, that out of conference schedule ain't getting any stronger. It ain't gonna be fun trying to get through 20 of these bad boys with no nights off. Anything else basketball related you want to get to?
I don't think so.
You don't think so, or you don't know so?
I don't think so. I'm good.
Okay. I think I hit on most that I wanted to get to. The bottom line is, Dave, is right now the roster's just not good enough. It's not far off. I don't think it's a scrap it and start over. I really don't. But there's work that needs to be done. It ain't there yet. It's solid.
Because like you scrap it and start over, like you're not going to be in a better place than you were this year. I wouldn't believe.
Right.
Like you're just going to scrap it and bring in all better players.
It's usually not how that works unless you got a whole lot of money in your war chest.
Yeah, it doesn't happen at no. So yes, you have to live with some of the decisions that you've made and work your ass off to develop these guys and then supplement them with players that we just talked about.
Yep. And you hope your point guards take a jump, and you hope Dan takes another jump, and you hope you put Simas in a more comfortable position, being probably your third or fourth best offensive player, which is where I think he fits best. I think he's a really, really, really good 3 or 4. They needed him to be a 1. He's not that. It's asking him to do too much. So, I think you need 2 of the centers back. I don't know if you need all 3. But yeah, it's getting crunch time, and I think we're crunch time in that. I mean, guess when the portal opens, Dave? Do you know?
Well, I mean, what conference tournaments are in 3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I assume when those are over, right?
Selection Sunday, transfer portal Monday.
Yeah.
So we are not far off from this thing getting real serious real quick. So it's funny how that works in college sports anymore. As soon as the season ends, it is the off season immediately. Immediately.
You know when that is, by the way? March 17th.
St. Patty's Day.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. Selection Sunday is St. Patty's Day, and then in 2.5 weeks, the portal opens.
No, 2.5 weeks from today.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 2.5 weeks, the portal opens. Yeah. Depends on what you consider half a week, I guess.
I'll be tracking tomorrow. All of the comings and goings from Reno, Nevada.
All right, let's timestamp it. That is the Turtles Brew timestamp. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea. They've got lemonade tea, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, strawberry mint. 100 locations in and around Ohio. Visit turtlesbrew.com for more information on the drink and where you can pick it up. A portion of the proceeds go to save the sea turtles, pretty much all over Ohio, or getting there quickly. So turtlesbrew.com, they will get you taken care of. Oh, Dave. All right, let's get to talking some football, some Bearcats football, as we are half a week away from the start of spring practice. I will be there pretty much every day. I believe Keegan will be there every day, and we will get you taken care of. This segment brought to you by Team Ticker. There you see the CPAW. Aaron's got the Bearcat. It's a one-of-a-kind sports sign for Bearcat fans. If you're looking for the perfect addition to your man cave, a gift for that special Bearcats fan, an addition to your dorm room, or your apartment on campus. Just go to teamticker.com. Pick up your team ticker today. If you use promo code BCJ, you will save $50 off of your order. I got it right that time, Aaron.
There you go.
Thank you.
Want to mention real quick before we switch to football.
Yeah.
That guy that I mentioned earlier that nobody had ever heard of before this year, he's got 27 again tonight.
Dalton Connect, is that his name?
Yes.
Connect. I don't know how to pronounce.
Yes, Connect. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like Connect 4. That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
KENECHT or something like that.
KNECT.
Whatever.
Yes.
Whatever.
PCH. But yes, I mean, Northern Colorado transfer was basically UT or Oregon. Had no clue who the hell he was, and he's ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. Did you see the Cavs game last night?
I did. I saw the
shot.
Max Strus,
who was a Division II transfer to DePaul, I think. And now
make it 29.
Is he? You think he'll come? Is he available? You think?
Yeah, I mean, like available for like the Magic with the 4th pick or something. Yeah, like no, yeah, I don't think I love the Bearcats, but Tennessee and UC's NIL positions not exactly aligned.
All right, let's get into talking some football. Brought to you by Team Ticker. We talked offense last week. Defensively, Dave, I don't know anything really about this defense. Like I don't know other than Corleone, and I think you're pretty good at linebacker, Dorian Jones, Jonathan Thompson, Jack Dingle. Like I think there's some bodies there. I don't know anything about this defense. I don't know what the scheme looks like. I don't know what I like about the scheme. I don't know what I dislike about the scheme. It's hard to talk about because there's so much turnover that just had to happen.
Yeah,
happen.
Defensively, I'm just in the spring. I'm really just looking at. I mean, we're just going to call it what it is. Like, I'm looking at height, weight, speed, guys. Because, like, it's all install. They're not game planning. If the offense has a good day, that means nothing to me. If the defense has a great day, that means nothing to me as well. I'm looking at how do these guys look compared to last year. Do we have anybody that looks like they might be able to get to the quarterback? And can these DBs cover?
Yeah.
And just like the general, I won't say vibes because that's not the right word, but just like the general appearance and look and feel of it. Like you'll know going in. Like it's hard to describe, but we'll know when we're standing there. I mean,
if they look small, they look small.
We've seen enough Bearcat practices over the years, and we've been pretty spot on for the most part when we've said what we've thought of a position group or of an offense or a defense. Like, we've been pretty good with what we've describing what we're seeing.
You know what I had somebody say to me last night, Dave?
What's that?
They said, are you guys ever going to like really discuss this team, or are we always going to get the BCJ rose-colored glasses?
Which team?
Basketball. It was in the basketball thing. When have we gone rose-colored glasses on you? Just because we don't go nuclear on everything. We have
I offer you Brent Young.
Brent, I'm talking about me and Dave.
I mean, it's not my personality to be like truly like bombastic and to say things that are made for a 15-second cut up to then post on Twitter, or to be an antagonist for the sake of being an antagonist. Like, I think I've been pretty straightforward in my, like, last year, this year, certainly in the John Brannon years, I kind of called that one real damn early. So, like, I don't know what, I mean, I've never said everything's fine. Like, I've never glossed over issues. Like, I don't know what,
remember how much heat I took in last preseason for football when I was like, look, everybody's talking about this is the best defensive line in the conference. Who's going to get to the quarterback? And if they don't have anybody that's going to get to the quarterback, then it's great to have Corleone and Briggs. They're awesome. But if you can't sack the quarterback, then your defensive line is not going to be the best defensive line in the conference. People told me I was nuts for that, Dave.
Yeah.
Turned out looking pretty decent.
We're going to watch one guy from the conference get drafted probably in the top 15 and the other guy in the second round. So I would go out on a limb and say that Texas had the best defensive line in the country, or at least the two best players.
Right.
Or two of the best. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not. There's just, and if
it's what Andrew said. If you don't want to fire somebody after every game that didn't go your way, that means you have rose-colored glasses. That's how people see it. Why don't you see it like me? Why aren't you? I made a joke last night, and somebody was literally in my mentions like, "Oh, that's great, Chad. You joke after losses." I joke all the time.
I don't play for the team or coach for the team. I don't care. Like, I care because if I didn't care, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
But, like, guess what? 3 minutes after last night's game, I didn't think about that game until getting ready for this podcast.
Right.
Like, their winning and losing does not, any of my teams, does not wreck, my life or anything like that. But I also like to live in reality. So, like, guess what they're not going to do? They're not going to pay Wes Miller $15 million to not coach the Bearcats anymore. So you can be as mad and as upset and say that we are this or we're that or they should do this or that. I like to live in reality. And so, I don't waste time on stuff that I know is not going to happen.
Yeah, I also and I'm sure you did this at a younger age, Dave, and I did this at a younger age.
Oh,
like
100%.
I would be mad after games. I regret, and maybe this is why I am like I am now. Looking back, I regret how much of an asshole I was sometimes. Like, to my wife, to my daughter, after a loss. Like, just stay away from me. I am pissed right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just
for what? Like, what we don't benefit.
Right.
There's no benefit to being like that.
Well, for me, there is a benefit of not having to deal with an angry message board.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, like, it doesn't like, I'm not mad when they lose.
No.
I used to be. I went through that phase. And now if they lose, I'm like, okay, like, what's next? Okay, we got to do a show. I got to listen to this post game. I got to, do this. I got to do that. Something big happened, Dave.
Bruce Pearl just got teed up.
There you go. There you go. But ultimately, like, no, it's not going to change anything.
No,
how can you joke about things at a time like this?
Here's the thing. Whether it's football or basketball, I think people listen to us and come to us because we are not like that, and because we talk about the game in a way that is not with those type of descriptions, or I feel like that's very easy to do. It's a lot harder to do research and truly try to know what you're talking about, versus just saying whatever thought comes into your head from a purely fan's perspective. I mean, we've both said those things as well, but I don't know that that's what people really want to hear. They want to hear good conversation about the pluses and minuses, and when things are going good and when things are going bad, how those things get fixed. Me sitting on here and ranting about how they should fire Wes, or how Scott Satterfield was a terrible hire, blah, blah, blah. Like, what is the point in that?
Right.
They're not going to do those things. So what is the point in us having those types of conversations?
Right. And also, I don't think there's anybody else in the market that has the conversations we do. I think it's easy to have the emotional highs are super high and lows are super low, and
here's
you
the
ride the roller
reason,
coaster.
and I'll say it so you don't have to say it. No, we don't talk like that because you go to every practice you're allowed to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the phone numbers in your phone of every coach on the basketball team and probably almost every coach and support staff member on the football team.
I cannot confirm or deny that allegation.
And if I came on here and just started ranting and raving about this needs to happen and that needs to happen and this guy needs to be fired and this guy needs a scholarship taken away, that does not do anything to me, but it does something to you.
Oh, sure it does.
And as an employee of Bearcat Journal, I would be putting you in a bad spot. And I'm not going to do that. If we were just two dudes that had season tickets, we could say whatever the hell we wanted.
Sure.
No one's coming to us
at stake here.
Right. So, yes, do we take a more measured tone? And do we probably, believe me, Chad and I have off camera conversations all the time, but those are meant for off camera and off podcast or whatever. Like, and if there's a fan that thinks we're not strict enough or we're not hard enough, well, we're just not going to be that for you, because there are relationships and there are other elements to this that go into that.
It is literally how I feed my family.
Right. So
literally,
if I just started spewing tweets from the Bearcat Journal account about how this guy sucks, or like, I'm endangering your living. So
yes.
We're not going to do that.
I would not allow that.
No. We're not going to do that.
What is our opinion on Viva La Cats podcast Wes Miller ratings? It says the fans have a 4.9 out of 10 overall rating on him. If you had to give him a total grade, what would y'all give him? Big 12 year one. Well, first off,
Connor, thank you very much for the donation.
Thank you. Yes. First off, they said they asked like 50, like they got a response from like 15 people on Twitter. I don't know that is the subset that I am seeking out for a poll.
Also, not a huge sample size.
Right. 4.9 is ridiculous, I think. 4.9 would be if, like, they had lost 6 games by 20 points and they just look like they were completely unready and unprepared for this league.
Yeah, they don't look like they belong.
Right. That has not been the case. So, I don't know. I guess what, Dave? 7, 6.5, 7, somewhere in probably that range for year one.
Yeah, 6.5. I'll do the no 7s, the Ryan Royer. I'm certainly not going 8. So then,
no.
So then I'm going 6.69.
Okay.
I did this exercise with Ed and Jeff in a group text today, and I got 6.95 for my ratings.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's right there between 6.5 and 7. They were competitive. The games have been fun to watch. They have not won enough of them. So I don't know how you could go above 7.
It's also incomplete because, like we said earlier,
yeah,
you go 0 for the rest of the year, my grade's going to drop.
Right. If you lose 8 of your last 9, it's hard to be in the 6s, right? If you lose almost all of the back half of your conference schedule, getting a 6 that's a challenge.
And you end up going 2-7 or 3-6 at home.
Right. Then yeah, the grade changes. But right now, I would say in the 6.5 range.
And I'm not trying to I mean, like I think it's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Like, I'm not big on grades. Because outside of
I think it's the dumbest shit ever.
Outside of winning and losing, I really don't care. Like, it doesn't. None of the other stuff matters to me.
We know.
So, not really.
Somebody said today, your all or nothing stance is not a good thing for the program, Dave.
Well, I mean, sorry. There's not a lot of middle ground for me with sports.
Yeah. I mean, that's your prerogative. And the conversation was talking about, like, has there been progress this season? I think we would all say, yes, the program has continued on an upward trend, but how upward that trend is up for conversation.
Yeah. I mean, there's been, if you went player by player, I mean, yes, there's some that have certain, and granted, there's not a whole lot of returning guys that played a significant amount last year to say, like, that they
Vic and not John, because John didn't play a second.
Yeah, Dan a little bit. I mean,
right.
Dan's minutes have been significantly more than they were last year. So yeah, I mean, it's like, what am I going to say? Oh, Seamus has definitely gotten better. Well, better compared to what? I maybe watched one Butler game all last year. What am I comparing it to?
And you were definitely not dialed in on how Simas Lukosius played.
I had never heard of Aziz Bandago until we played them in the NIT. He was not a human being that I knew existed. So
exactly.
But I also have no problem with it. I mean, I think it makes for good conversation. It's just not something that I'm like that I think about too much. Especially going from what they were in last year to now this year. Now I think it's certainly more of a worthwhile conversation to have at this point next year.
Mm-hmm.
When you've had a full season, and we've totally gone away from football, but I mean,
football, yeah.
We'll talk plenty of football once spring practice starts. But I mean, now that you've had a full season in it, you've had a full season in it and recruited to it. I think it'll be a very fair and more detailed conversation to have next year.
It's also just impossible because what do you compare it to?
Right. That's what I mean. Like, you have to, to give a grade on something, you have to have a baseline. There was no baseline until now.
Right. Back to football. And the reason we went off on a tangent is we're going to tell you, like, if we don't think if the corners are getting beat regularly, we're going to talk about, hey, they still got a similar problem. Maybe the 3 safeties over the top will be able to do a better job masking some of that. Maybe it won't. Maybe they don't have the right safeties. Maybe they don't have the right corners. But right now, we don't really know.
No, I mean, you have a couple corners that did some good things at times, but then also, had plenty of errors at times. So they're going to probably get first crack, but I don't think that necessarily means anything.
I don't either.
I mean, last year was not good enough across the board.
Right.
I think outside of the 5 offensive linemen, Xavier Henderson, Corey Kiner, I mean, Dante Corleone, maybe Jonathan Thompson, Jack Dingle, like every position's up for grabs. I don't give a shit what you did last year. They stunk.
Right. Especially defensively, where this is supposed to be,
So I would hope that seeing the influx of players on the defensive side from the portal, Jordan Young, Kellen Carroll better not be thinking that we're like the anointed starters.
There's going to be a lot of young, hungry guys that,
I mean, I don't know what position he'll necessarily play, but I'm going to be pretty stunned come September if Derek Cantine's not starting somewhere on the defense.
Agreed. Especially with 3 safeties and 2 corners. Like, he's going to be one of them. Any way you slice it. What does the pass rush look like? And how much can we trust it? Because we know this offensive line was not good at pass blocking last year. That should have been what we know now. Should have been a telltale sign going through camp, should it not? Like they didn't get a great pass rush from the edge,
right,
against a bad pass blocking offensive line.
What was it? I mean, it was several years ago at this point now, but it took us all about 45 minutes the first practice at higher ground to be like, these receivers can't get open.
Yeah. Well, and then, but you have to wonder, is the secondary really that good? And the answer to some of that was yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek Forrest and James Wiggins and Kobe Bryant, and like the answer was, and Arquan Bush, like, yeah, that's not a good wide receiver room, but we might also be looking at the best defensive secondary in the country by the time Sauce got involved. That's a challenge to all of that, is you have to figure it out.
Be able to balance and try to find out. But that's also why I should say you, not me, why we as a company, why you try to be there every day, so that it's not, well, today these guys are really good, and then I didn't come again for 4 practices.
So I don't know.
And now they were really good again, but what happened in between? And is it just that they're good, or is it that the guys they're going up against actually stink?
Well, here's the other thing on the other side of that, Dave. Still looked pretty damn good when he had to go against the number 1 corner in the country.
Yeah,
Alec Pierce was still pretty damn good against Sauce Gardner. Like there were wins.
Yeah.
Regular and significant wins for Alec Pierce. So you know what? This guy's really good because that guy's really good. And they're both having great moments, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what we don't know yet. Like I think we know Xavier Henderson's pretty good. Mm-hmm. If somebody steps up and guards him really well, I'm probably going to wonder if Brendan Sorsby stinks.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean,
I don't know that we've ever had a spring like this coming up starting Monday, Dave.
Yeah, I mean last year was,
but last year
there were still a lot of holdovers from the year before. I mean, this year there are, talking specifically defensively, there are not, outside of Dante and a couple of the linebackers. I mean, it could be a free for all.
We knew that there was a lot of turnover on offense, and that didn't go great.
No.
10 of 11 new starters was not a boom for the Bearcats offense.
No.
Any word on the new running back coach? Sorry if you discussed, I missed it. I'll leave that up to you. I know you had time to look into that today while I was being radio boy. What do you know about the new coach?
Sean Dawkins from Memphis had an all AAC running back last year. Had a really good year. Caught a lot of passes too. That's offensive specific. I don't know if that's what we'll do, but I mean, he's got a long track record of being a running back coach. that has had his backs or his running games have had success at pretty much every level that he's coached at. I mean, he's got some time at like Austin P. They ran for damn near 250 yards in a season. Charlotte was with Will Healy when they had things going there. And then I think this was his second year at Memphis. So, it's outside of that. I mean, it was just made, Twitter public today. So there's not a whole lot that we're going to have outside of what you can kind of Google. But, it seems like like we kind of joked on the board. It should be the stock answer for every coaching hire in every sport. Seems good. Have no clue if it'll work.
Right.
or seems bad. I mean, you might say seems bad. But you also have to then couch that by saying no idea if it'll work. Because we have no idea if any of these guys will ever work. You can have your thoughts and your suspicions and your hunches, but everybody thought Scott Frost was going to be the greatest coach in Nebraska football history outside of Tom Osborne, and that clearly didn't work. And we know here there was a long line of people that were certainly not convinced that Luke Fickell was going to be a good head coach, and he turned out to be excellent. So, seems good, seems bad, have no idea.
Here's good news, Dave. We are not saying this will be his first time coaching said position.
No.
After not being a player at said position or ever coaching said position is in his entire life. So that's a good thing.
Good starting point. Has done job in previous years.
He was selling insurance, and now we have just made him our lead sales manager on houses. Because he can sell, so he obviously knows how to do both things.
That's right.
And look, if you've gone from selling insurance to selling houses, I'm sure it was a very smooth transition, and you're great at it. We believe in you. But it's just the analogy that came to my mind first.
Here's a fun one that'll make your eyes bleed if you're happen to be watching it. 16 minutes left in the game. Iowa State 33, Oklahoma 26. Not football.
Not football. Not football. I joked last night, I think it was with you, at 14-2. Look, how do you get a safety and still give up 2 touchdowns?
It's tough luck. Did we really? I mean, I think I might have seen this, whatever the right word is. Did we really make 2 baskets in the first half last night?
No.
Okay.
They made 2 baskets in the first 10 minutes.
Okay. I mean, I know they were for a while there. They were threatening to have more turnovers than points.
Yeah, at one point it was what 17-4.
The score?
Yeah. So they at that point had made 2 baskets.
Yeah, I didn't maybe free throws or something. That's all.
No, 2 baskets.
Okay, yeah. It was 13 points to 9 turnovers at one point.
Yeah, football, Dave. Football. You don't think this guy will be pulling coaches' videos off YouTube? No, I don't think so.
Hope not.
I mean, I'm sure for some guys it is a nice way to stay on top of your game. It just shouldn't be your game. You shouldn't be taking notes like, ooh, I'm going to add that to the top.
I like that. I'm going to implement that. Dave,
you put the ball in your hand and you tuck it up.
And then I'm
going to hit you with something to see if you'll drop it. And we're going to go 10 yards, and then we're going to go 10 yards back, and I'm going to do it again. And you do it in the other arm. Check.
Oh my God. So freaking good.
Oh boy. I don't know. I think we're going to have a much better show on this topic over the next couple weeks because we will finally be able to. And
well, yeah, I can ask
people
you
get mad
questions. Ask you
Yeah.
questions, and you can actually like answer them with things that you have seen.
people get mad at me when when they ask, like, somebody asked in the mailbag something about like, what do you think about this heading into spring practice? And I'm like, well, fortunately, I don't have to think about it because I get to go watch it.
Yeah.
I get to go make my own educated, for whatever you think my educated opinion is worth. I get to make my own educated opinion on what I see. So I don't have to get out over my skis because I can see the ramp. The ramp is coming. I'm going to hit it. We're going to be in the air. Dalton Connect finishes with 39, Dave.
Yeah, because he's a dog.
Dog.
It's
He's going to make a
at
lot more money next year than he made last year, no matter where he ends up.
I mean, that's at least, I want to say at least his fifth, maybe more 30-point game this year.
Is that good? Is
I
that
mean,
good?
I think it's not bad. It's not bad.
All the defense in Iowa State, no defense in Oklahoma State. I haven't even looked at that one. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else leading into spring football. I would hope, usually, the defense is ahead of the offense. I would hope the offense is ahead of the defense as we get started next week.
Yeah.
If not, be having some tough conversations on here.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, look, I know, like, Brendan Sorsby's new, but you've got two quarterbacks that have been here before. The offense should look solid. 51-47 UCF over Oklahoma State for them. 15 minutes left in the game. Let's get to some of the other stuff that's going around, Dave. I will turn this over to you because you heard some of my conversation on the radio today. I've been in for Mo all week. If you're interested in listening, I'll be in for Mo again 3 to 6 on Thursday, 3 to 6 on Friday. ESPN's 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. Just talking about in general the direction of college athletics. And I fear that we are heading down a path that is going to create something that has become a major problem in baseball. And that is, baseball has become a regional sport. Nobody cares about, when I was a kid, man, I knew what every team in the division's record was. I knew their starting rotation. I had a really good idea on who their entire starting 8 was. Like, I was dialed in. I knew all of that stuff. And I don't think in baseball that exists anymore, because baseball created, because of the salary cap and because of this feeling of like have and have not, and small market, big market, and all the things that were kind of unique to baseball. They created a situation that was unique to baseball in that really nobody cares about anything but their home team. And I would say some of that is the product of 162 games. If I got to pay attention to one team for 162 games, I certainly don't have the capacity to pay attention to like 6 of them.
No.
Baseball also made it impossible to find the damn games to even watch to begin with.
Well, yeah, because baseball was in a unique, they had to, though, Aaron, because you play 162 games. Your fans want to watch 162 games, or as many of them as are possible. So they didn't have a great choice in that, like, decision, but it also plays a factor in why the sport is greatly regional right now. I don't want to see college sports getting to that, Dave, but I mean, it feels like it's coming, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like from a football standpoint, we've already, I say we, I haven't done any of this, but they have already essentially chopped off a third of the country. like a third of the country is not really paying that close of attention to the sport. Now, you're and all of these things I think they're long overdue, and I feel like they're good for the athletes. But from speaking from the fans' perspective, like I know way less about Tennessee football than I used to. It is just to be a fan of a team, and we're all on here and we are diehards, and so we are fine with it. But like to be a fan of a team is work now. And it just shouldn't be like that. Like to have an understanding of who is on your team going into a season is legitimate work. To try to follow all of the stuff that is going on with whether it was conference realignment or name, image, and likeness or unionization or
when the hell is signing day? Do I
yeah.
care about this signing day? Do I not care about this signing
Does
day?
this third signing day actually matter? This schedule, the calendar. Why are our coaches not getting ready for a bowl game because they also have to be recruiting in the portal and trying to wrap up? Like, there's just so much shit, if we're being honest, that it's frankly, like, it kind of sucks the fun out of it at this point. Like, if your team isn't having a great year or even a good year for their standards, like, I feel like it's so easy now to just detach because you're like, I have to work pretty hard to like stay on top of all of this. And if my team is not playing well, why am I going to do all those things?
Yeah.
So, and we've joked about it in the past, like they're already talking about a larger playoff when they haven't even done the first playoff. And part of that is because there is no playoff format in place for after these next 2 years. So they have to figure something out. But so it makes a convenient, funny joke that like you guys didn't want a playoff. Then you had a 14 playoff. Now you're going to have a 12-team playoff, but that basically is already going to get superseded 2 years later by a potentially 14-team playoff, which will eventually go to 16 teams. Let's not kid ourselves.
Sure.
And you have the threat of conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC basically aligning with themselves and breaking away from the NCAA, and everybody else thinks the NCAA is a joke, and there's no actual one. Like, nobody would set up their business model like college sports is set up, but yet there's nobody can take charge and try to put the pieces back in place or make a business plan that makes sense for us, which it might not be possible when you have 360 something basketball teams all playing under the same umbrella, so to speak, and 120 something football teams all vying for the same thing, which is hilarious in and of itself. Like, but I just, we love it and we talk about it every week and we're diehards, and I'll probably never go off of that. But like, if we're being honest, like, Will is getting to the point where he really likes sports, and when he starts playing sports on the, if he does start playing sports on the weekend, like, I'm not going to have the Saturdays where I literally just plop my ass in front of the TV for 12 straight hours and consume every college football game I can. And I think if things continue down this road, you're going to have a lot of people, even fans in the Big Ten and the SEC, like, a lot of these programs already don't have a shot, and they only play 7 or 8 conference games. Well, when they break away and they only play each other, like Mississippi State, Vandy, Purdue, Minnesota, like
Indiana,
they're going to be even more disjointed or disenfranchised from what they want. And so, it's frustrating. it's probably, part of it is the changes that have been in the sport, which I have no problem with. I've said on here for how long and said, I think you should be able to transfer as much as you want. And that's probably a minority take. But the catch-22 of that is then, it also makes it harder for you as a fan to feel a connection to your program and to feel a connection to players that, like, you see a guy get recruited and he comes in and he's a nothing as a freshman, and then he's a rotational piece as a sophomore, and then he takes a big jump as a junior, and then he's an all-league player as a senior. And you have a great senior night and you cry because this guy has meant so much to you as a fan. And like, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
So I think it's totally understandable that fans at some point will just kind of be like, I'm already a Bengals fan. I don't need my Bearcats and my Vols to be basically the Bengals. So, there is the nice part of that they were not the same, and now they are very much becoming the same.
They are. And some of it too, like, you can speak on this better than I can as like an SEC guy. Like, one of the things SEC fans pride themselves on is knowing quite a bit about every team in the league. And I think that's going to go away by and large, because there's so much activity, because there's so much, like, it was always a challenge to figure out, like, okay, how many guys are left Alabama and got drafted, and they're replacing 7-8 NFL guys, and their defense is going to have 5 new starters or whatever the case may be, but you still knew, like, who had next, who was like, oh, well, yeah, they lost this guy to the first round, but right behind him was this guy who, when he was on the field, was a monster. Now it's this guy went to the NFL, and now there's transfer portal guy that's coming in, and I don't know anything about this guy other than he played at such and such school, and he put up pretty good numbers for them. And that continuity, not just of knowing your team, but Dave, I think you would agree with me on this. When it comes to forecasting the Big 12 next year, I have no idea. I haven't had time to keep up with.
Everybody brought in 15, 20 transfers, and and guess where they all didn't transfer from? Games that I've been watching.
Right.
So, like, if I have a hard time projecting what UC is going to do, how the hell am I going to project what Texas Tech's going to do?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of the sport now, but it
doesn't mean you have to like it.
No, because I certainly don't. Like, from a pure, and we're talking from a purely fans perspective.
Yeah, and that was my question. Like, that was where the question began was, look, NIL is fantastic. What college sports has done to NIL is hilarious to me, that they've just outsourced it to the fans, and you have coaches openly like, I am making $12 million a year,
but
my roster is not good enough because you guys aren't carrying your weight.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Right. Like, and that, like that's the stuff that will, over time, turn people off.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, guess what, Mark Stoops? And I'll call you out because you did this when you lost to Georgia and said that they bought a bunch of good players, which is just hilarious because Georgia can get whoever the hell they want. I don't really think they need one dime in NLI money to do it.
Kentucky does nothing but buy players.
Right. But, like, if I'm a diehard Kentucky fan, I'm like, dude, you have the cushiest job in the world. All you got to do is win 8 games a year and never going to get fired. And you're telling me that it's my fault because I'm not donating enough money? That's why we're not beating Georgia? Like,
yeah.
Like, get out of here, man. Like, there is a tipping point that is going to come at some point where people are just going to go, you know what? I love my Reds. I love my Bengals. I don't need my Bearcats to be like them. And it's just the calendar, like the NFL has cornered the market on making everything an event.
Yeah.
the schedule release, the draft, free agency, the combine. Like, we're getting to that point in college sports where it's like, the minute the 2026 recruits can get contacted at midnight is now like a thing. We got to send out texts and we got to send out graphics. And, we have to have legislation to stop having hotel rooms decorated for 16 and 17-year-olds. Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how we'll ageism them, but like, I don't know how the older generation is even a fan anymore because it's so diametrically different than what they're, used to of college athletics. Like, my mom and aunt have been going to UC basketball games forever. Like, they're getting tired of like who are these guys? They don't follow it like we do. Like,
spring football starts Monday. It is going to take me 2-3 days to figure out what I'm looking at. Full practices with a roster in hand and more knowledge than virtually anyone on the topic of who is on the field at any given time.
Yeah.
And I am going to stand there for 2, 4, 6 hours, and I'm still going to see somebody make a play on the 2 deep and go, who was that?
Yeah.
He's not on the roster. Who was that?
Or it's like, oh yeah, that guy decided he wanted to be number 27 today instead of 24.
Right. But 6 years ago, I could look at him and say, oh, that's da-da-da-da-da with a different number on. I can't do that now because I don't know what da-da-da-da-da looks like. I've never seen him play football before.
Yeah.
So if it's hard for me, who is one of the very few lucky people that gets to legitimately do this for a living. It's not a hobby. I'm not doing it. I mean, I'm doing it because I like it. That's the only reason you do it. But I'm not doing it for the love of the game. I'm doing it because it feeds my family. But I love it. But if I don't know, how do you expect, Bob that graduated from UC in the 70s and has an awesome wife and has club seats and gets to go on cool trips with the Bearcat Journal crew. Hi, Bob. How is Bob supposed to show up at a game on Saturday and know who the hell is who?
Yeah. And I don't blame anybody for it. Like,
I don't either.
That's the other thing is again, there's so many catch-22s. And you want me to donate. You want me to support. And I understand that is key. But then there's no attachment to your programs anymore because it's just a new guy coming in all the time. And it's like, oh, that guy left to go get more money at X school, and now this is the new guy that I'm supporting, so I'm just going to keep giving that guy money now. Right. And I'm all for it. Like the amount of taking advantage of that the athletes have had for so long. It's about time that they kind of got something.
Sure. I still think it's maybe the greatest scam in history.
Oh,
that the NCAA has outsourced paying players.
Yeah.
And they're keeping the checks. And they're just looking square in the face of the gun.
The schools can't pay them. The schools can't pay them because then they wouldn't be student athletes anymore.
Right.
The fans can pay them, and it's totally fine.
It's perfectly okay. As long as you guys pay them.
And if you don't pay them, and we're not very good, it's your fault.
Yeah. Well, that's what, let's be honest, that's what's going to turn a lot of fans off, right? That specific thing that you just said.
Well,
you buy season tickets.
Chad.
You travel to bowl games. Spend thousands and thousands of dollars of your money already on this team.
How many coaches?
And now we're not good enough because I didn't pay the players enough.
Right. How many coaches? We hear coaches complain about NIL all the time.
Sure.
How many coaches on good teams were doing the complaining?
Very few.
Right. So when you're not good, it's an easy crutch to lean on because I just couldn't get good enough players, guys. I mean,
I tried.
I tried,
went
but we
into
just
the portal and I tried.
We just don't have the money.
You're not giving me enough money to go get good players.
I make $5 million a year, and my staff as a whole combined makes $7 million. We make $12 million as a football staff, but we can't get the players, man. It's on you guys to get the players.
That is going to wear people very thin. Like, the faster they get to athletes or employees and the schools have to pay them, the better it is for college sports. Because this notion that you have to build my stadiums, you have to build my indoor practice facilities,
athletic performance center.
You have to build my locker rooms. You have to pay for the coaches. You have to pay for the scholarships. Don't forget, you have to pay for the scholarships. And now you also, we're going to need you to pony up. Yeah. And this is new. Football 6 million is needed every year for the roster, to pay the roster. Basketball 2-3 million is needed every year to pay the roster. I know in the grand scheme of college sports, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. It is a lot of money.
Like, I know we're being simplistic, and I know that there are expenses, but like, I would go like, what exactly are you guys paying for?
Right.
You got 45,000 students and an endowment in the billions. What are you guys paying for?
Right. You're paying for charter planes and hotels. You're not paying for gear. The company that you have outsourced to is covering your expenses in uniforms and helmets and cleats, and you're paying for room and board for your players. Congratulations. You're paying for food. What else?
Like, I can pay $500,000 to put my name on some element of the new practice facility.
Sure you can.
If the team stinks and you fire the coach, can I get my money back?
Nope. Nope. And thank you for your $500,000, but we've got a new coaching staff, and we're going to have.
Can I get a little bit more because I need a buyout here? I need to pay for the buyout. Can I get a little bit more?
Or what's going on across town, Dave, where they have a coach that they like, and they want that coach to stay, and that coach is essentially holding your fan base ransom. That if there's not X amount of dollars in the NIL fund, I'm going to listen real hard. I'm going to listen real hard when this coaching carousel opens. So y'all better pay my players, or I'm out of here.
It's not my responsibility to pay your players.
How are we accepting of that?
They play for your university. They don't play for David Simone University.
But how did we get to a point where everybody was just like,
fine.
You're right.
Yeah, I guess
we have to pay the players. Damn.
Makes total sense. Because once one team started doing it,
right,
and had
everybody
success,
has to do it.
It's the thing that we joke about with the photo shoots and the hotel rooms. Because I've always been like, guess what? No one's making you do it.
Right.
You're doing it because
everybody else is doing it.
Because everybody else is doing it, and you don't want to be the one that's like, God, I went to UC and they didn't give me a cookie cake. How did they not give me a cookie cake? I'd be like, these are ridiculous things, and you're just doing them because you don't want some 17-year-old to maybe not pick your school because you didn't have bags of Cheetos and the right color Gatorade in his hotel room.
I heard it, I don't know, 5, 7, I can't remember exactly how many years ago, but like talking about when kids came on official visits and when they went to other schools, there was this grand like welcoming area and and that they didn't have that, and that it was something that if they didn't get fixed was going to be a problem. And for me, maybe I'm crazy. And I know first impressions are important and they mean a lot and whatever. But if you're losing kids because they showed up to their unofficial visit to watch you play an out-of-conference game against an FCS school.
Yeah, and the band and the cheerleaders didn't greet them when they got to the parking lot.
Right. What are we doing?
Like in
I don't know, man.
What was the program when Darnell Jefferson showed up? And then he showed up the next time and he was like, "Where's the band and the dancing honeys?" And they're like, "Dude, you're already signed. They ain't coming now."
They ain't coming for you, bro. We got you. You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there is going to be a point. I don't know when it's going to be. Maybe there's not. I don't know. But like, it just feels
the crazy thing is ratings are better than ever.
Yeah,
interest is bigger than ever.
I think that will start to wane, though. Like,
I do too.
The ratings
Although
will be
I thought
huge.
that for a couple of years.
The ratings will be huge in the first few years of the playoff, but if it ends up being the same teams all the time, less people will watch. If the SEC and the Big Ten try to do something together, I think less people will watch. It's they've.
If you're in ACC country, you're in North Carolina. Why would you care about the Big Ten SEC championship game for the national title?
No.
Why would you care?
They've just totally lost the betterment of the sport thing. You know why the NFL is as good as it is? Because every decision they make is for the collective. It is their goal every year. Now it's not possible because of 17 games. Their goal every year is for every team to go 8-8.
Yeah.
For every team.
Now they want half of the teams to go 9-8 and half of the teams to go 8-9, 7, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Because they always want to keep you on the hook for the hope and that we're this close. Like in college sports, like how many programs, whether it's football or basketball, really feel like they're this close?
Not many. Randy says you would care if you gamble. If you don't know, you're going to gamble less because you don't know anything about the teams.
Yeah, I place a wager every now and again, but that doesn't mean I'm like as tuned in as I used to be.
Right.
So, no.
And some of it is we're getting old, Dave. Some of it is we've gotten old and priorities change. And
absolutely.
But we're also
the one like my age and probably like a little bit older. We're the ones that you would be trying to get the money from.
Right.
We're the ones with that you should have
discretionary
the income and the disposable income to I had a good year. I'll donate a little bit, but like, what am I donating to at this point?
Dave, we need you to pay for this. If we just had
one more
a star corner, if we had a star, if we had this scoring guard, he would answer all our problems, getting over the hump in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And without your support, we're not going to be able to get him.
And then if I pay for him and he's no good, do I get my money
refunds,
back, right?
sir.
Right.
No refunds.
It's like the stock market.
No refunds,
and
sir.
They're like a financial advisor. Oh, I got this hot stock tip. Oh, well, it ended up being terrible. Can I have my money back? Oh, no, you can.
No, that's not how this works.
Why would you ask me about that?
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's just something that's been on my mind, mainly because this is what I do for a living, and interest waning is not great.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. We've gotten to a point where, Cincinnati's now in the big leagues. Oh, well, the big leagues are changing. The big leagues aren't. You're not. We'll let you know if you're in the big leagues.
Yeah, you're not in the big leagues. You're in the big leagues,
right?
But not the big leagues, like not the capital BIG leagues, just the capital B IG league. Yeah, I mean it's I used to. It happens to everything. Like I used to love the Mets. I don't pay any attention to baseball anymore.
Right.
I used to like college basketball way more than I like college football. It's practically reversed now. So it ebbs and flows, but you also have to at some point, like, the NFL is
Consider
doing
what the people that are ultimately paying the bills think
Right.
of your product.
Yeah.
You have put
Yeah.
everything on them. Viewership, ratings, like we said, building the buildings.
We're just a bunch of suckers, though, because we keep,
Just keep doing it, bro.
collectively, we keep ponying up.
Keep doing it.
So,
Logic says there will be a breaking point. Reality says, I don't know about that. Let's see how bad they can mess it up. Let's see how many bad decisions it takes.
Oh yeah, I mean, we
for us to
talked
get
about
there.
the expanding the NCAA tournament, but last week or the week before, and like, yeah, we'll still watch it, but like, it's but I don't know. Are you at some point you're gonna not be watching it as much because you're like, I watched these teams all year. They weren't good for 3 months. Why are they in the tournament to determine the national champion?
Yeah.
I already think part of like, and you might disagree because you're certainly more into the college basketball than me, but like, to me anymore, like the first and second round is the tournament. That first weekend is the tournament. And then if my team goes, then I'm interested. But like
the Sweet 16 forward is for
the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 is like the most boring week. Like I don't even care. Like get to the Final Four, who might actually win the thing. But other than like the first and second round is fun because there's so many games.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I'm kind of like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
If Tennessee makes a run, then I'm interested in what they're doing. But like, I'll have it on because it's fun to watch and I watch sports. It's what I do. But it's like, I can totally see where people are like, why am I watching this again at 10:30 on a Thursday night? Like this game is just starting.
Right. It's going to get over at 1, sir. It's going to get over at 1.
Two teams that I have no rooting interest in. Like
I don't know a single player on either team. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Trip
like,
TV, 10:30 on a Thursday night. It's interesting. And they've done so much of this to themselves. And look, I don't even blame the Big Ten and the SEC for what they're about to do to ruin the sport.
No, this started long before that with the true conference expansion and all of that and
right.
And being so hardline against giving players agency and trying to uphold a model that everybody knew was a farce. And, dating back to like when I was in school, and I could have transferred to 4 different colleges and nothing outside of maybe some credits not transferring, nothing happens to me. But if an athlete does it, they have to sit out. You can have a job, but the athlete can't have a job. And like so many just dumb things that eventually snowball into where we sit now. And, people are just not, I think some people are just they're going to end up finding other things to put their interest in.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else? Aaron and I are going to hit on the 14-team playoff stuff that came out. Pete Thamel and Heather Dinich.
I know Ross Dellinger has a piece out on it.
Talking about what it might look like and that entire conversation. I thought, we had a different conversation to have here. We touched on it a little bit. But Aaron and I will deep dive on it a little bit more on the nightcap that we're going to record here shortly. So if you're looking for some of that, you'll be able to find it on the nightcap. But other than that, I mean, it's going to be interesting, the basketball conversation we have a week from tonight. Kansas State at home, Oklahoma on the road. Go win some games.
Yeah.
Please change the conversation I'm going to have from 3 weeks from now all the way through the summer and into November.
Yeah,
Please.
let's not turn this into like a spring football and like Bengals free agency draft podcast. As much as I enjoy talking about those things, it's you know.
Well, the beauty of it though is, Dave, no matter what happens, Selection Sunday will hit, the transfer portal will open on Monday.
Yeah, you'll have that. Yeah.
We're going to have that to talk about. So it's always something. But the narrative is going to be a lot easier if this is a 7 or 8 win Big 12 team. If it is a 5-win Big 12 team or even a 6-win, it's 6 isn't enough, is it? Got to be 7, right? I think
So, man. I mean,
6 and 12.
12.
You lost 2/3 of your games.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you all as always. Thanks to Team Ticker. Thanks to Turtles Brew. And thanks to Holy Grail for being there for us as always. We'll see you next time. That is the BCJ Podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.